What you're about to learn is the most seductive thing that a man can do. And if you can master this, your life will change in so many different ways that it will blow your mind. So one of the most powerful attraction triggers known to man is something called dominance. And it's not one of those things that you either have or don't have. Dominance is something that can be learned, and it doesn't really take long at all to understand it. What you have to understand is that every person on the planet has their own view of the world. And this view is going to be slightly different than your view and the view of the other 7 billion people out there. And your view of the world is your frame, and the viewpoint of another person is their frame. And whenever you're interacting with other people, your frames are basically colliding, and typically the most dominant person is the one who has the strongest frame. Quantum physics states that on the smallest level, reality is really just a sea of mathematical probabilities, with nothing really being set in stone. And what this means is that your frame or your beliefs quite literally shape your reality. But here's where it gets interesting. Our beliefs or our frame has the potential to shape not just our reality, but also the realities of other people. It's useful to think of our frame kind of like a bubble. And if you look at what happens when two bubbles collide, what you'll see is that the bigger bubble absorbs the smaller one. This is exactly what happens when we're interacting with other people and two different frames are colliding with one another. Whenever you have two or more people interacting, both of them have their own frame or their own bubble of a certain size depending on how strong their belief is. So if you're the person with the stronger frame, your bubble is going to absorb their bubble, and what you're left with is both of you sitting inside of the same bubble or inside of the strongest frame. This is one of the simplest ways to think about dominance. Now imagine within your frame or within your bubble, you believe that you are one of the best looking guys out there. Now imagine a girl walks up to you and tells you that you are not attractive at all. In this exact moment, both her frame or bubble and your frame begin to collide. Now what you have to understand is that in any situation, there can only be one dominant frame. In any relationship, there's always one person who plays a dominant role and one who plays a submissive role. Now what you have to understand is that there will always be one dominant frame, especially when it's just you and one other person. So imagine the girl tells you that you're unattractive, which goes directly against your frame or your belief that you are a really good looking dude. Then what's going to happen is it's going to crumble under her words, and you will effectively submit to her reality or her frame, which is one where you are supposedly a really unattractive guy. And the moment that that happens, she's basically assuming the position of power, and she will have effectively imposed her frame onto your frame. Or in other words, her bubble will have absorbed yours. Now the point of having a dominant frame doesn't mean that you're supposed to go around trying to force your beliefs or your frame on other people. What it means is that when other people unintentionally or intentionally try to force their beliefs onto you, the goal is to have your frame strong enough that it simply absorbs theirs. Every day of our life, our frame is constantly deflecting or absorbing the frames of other people who are trying to impose their view of reality or their opinions onto us. What you have to understand is that dominance isn't about thinking you're superior to other people and acting like an awful person. Dominance is simply holding your frame or your set of beliefs about yourself, no matter what other people do or say, to try and change those beliefs. What you have to realize is that your frame should always be the dominant one in your life. And the stronger your frame is, or the stronger your belief is about something, the bigger the so-called bubble will be, and the more likely it is that your frame will absorb the frames of other people. Imagine that within your frame, you are a really confident, valuable man. Now what if you were to meet a girl, and her tone and behavior towards you implied that you are neither of these things? At that exact moment, both of your frames or bubbles are colliding, and there can only be one dominant frame. So either you maintain your own frame of being confident and valuable, or her frame collides with and absorbs yours, which leaves you questioning your confidence and value, and before you know it, it sets off a chain reaction of bad things that happen and your frame grows even weaker. This is exactly what you do not want to have happen. Kids who get bullied in school, all that's really happening is that one kid is imposing his frame or his reality or his beliefs onto a kid who has a weaker frame. And the kid who's doing the bullying might not be anywhere near as tough as the kid who is being bullied. But if he submits to the bully's frame or to the bully's reality, then he is allowing the bully to literally bend and shape his own reality to something that is not actually true. If we were really good at something and we were to allow the opinions of others to absorb our frame, what do you think is going to happen? We're going to start to question our ability, and we're going to allow our reality, which is one where we are really good, to be twisted into the reality of those who tell us that we suck. And then surprise, surprise, their opinions actually become true, as long as we are living in their reality. Now, when the frames of two more people collide, it is normal for there to be resistance. But eventually, one dominant frame will emerge. And if something like your confidence or your value as a man is on the line, then your frame should always be the dominant one. If one person believes one movie is great and another person thinks that that movie sucks, you will have two frames colliding. But when it comes to trivial things like how good a movie is, it doesn't really matter who has the dominant frame because this is something that's so trivial. But whenever you're dealing with really important things like your confidence or your value as a person, you cannot allow other people to break your frame or to bend your reality to theirs. Because if you do, then you are effectively submitting to their reality, and this is the complete opposite of dominance. Imagine the leader of a great army that is up against impossible odds. In this situation, the leader must have the dominant frame because he must convince all of his men that they are going to win the battle, even though the odds are stacked against him. Now, all of these men within the army must submit to the leader's reality because if they don't, then they will all surely perish. In this situation, if the leader were to submit to the frame of the enemy, which is the one where all of his army is defeated and captured, imagine what is going to happen to both him and all of his men. Most likely, they're going to get defeated and captured. What many guys don't realize is that they are the leaders of their own army. And all these men that you have behind you right now, they all want you to win and succeed. And all that you have to do to allow this is to be exceptionally dominant or to hold your frame. All of these men are counting on you to maintain the dominant frame. In practical terms, this means loving yourself and not letting the opinions of other people alter your reality or your frame. Men who have a weak frame are easily dominated by the opinions of other people. In the animal kingdom, these would be called sheep. Maintaining a dominant frame is the most seductive thing that a man can do. When girls quote-unquote test you, all they're really doing is probing your frame to see if they can break it. Same is true when other men poke fun at you. And when a girl tries to break your frame and she is unsuccessful, you will have just triggered the most primal switch for attraction that there is. Your reality, or your frame, or your belief about yourself must always be stronger than what others think of you, or than the frames of other people. This is the most seductive thing that a man can do. And with that said, until next time, thanks for watching.